Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. And today we're talking about something that honestly blew my mind a little bit because I think most of us assume baby gear only has two paths. You buy it new or you try your luck secondhand. But what if there is a third option? What if that open box stroller someone returned, that overstock bassinet sitting in a warehouse, that premium car seat that never actually left the box? What if those items didn't automatically head toward liquidation or landfill, but instead got inspected, graded, verified, and offered back to families at a fraction of the cost? That's what Stork Exchange is doing. Today, I'm talking with Ben Norment, founder and CEO of Stork Exchange, a platform partnering directly with baby gear brands to recirculate open box and overstock products safely and transparently. And he's not just building this company from a boardroom. He's a dad of 3 under 5. He's living the gear chaos in real time. So if you've ever paid full price for something your baby used for 3 weeks, this episode is for you. So without further ado, let's welcome Ben. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you so much for having me, Samantha.
So excited. And what a cool concept to have. I wish that was more of a thing I have a 5 and 3.5-year-old, but I was talking with Leah Nolan and she was kind of explaining to me what everything was about. And I just can't believe how well the products are resold at the price that they're sold at. So I'm a little jealous that was not the case for me.
Yeah, I set out to build this because it wasn't the case for me when we had our first either. It was like, wow, feels like there's got to be a better way to do this. And
Yeah.
I can say that since that time, I think I'm still our number one customer of all time. I've come back for all three of our kids.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, before we get into that, we start each episode with our wine, and Win of the Week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine or drink, vent about something that's been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So, Ben, what is your drinking wine of the week?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, we are a big fan of the Kirkland wines. I think they have some really solid wines from a lot of great regions at really affordable prices. So when you're wanting to open a wine on a Wednesday night or Thursday night after a long day, sometimes it's a great way to have a great glass of wine without breaking the bank. So that would be one of my favorites.
It's so funny that you say that because I think for the first time had Kirkland wine a couple weeks ago. I was on my way up to the Poconos with my kids and stopped at another friend's house and she's like, "Oh, take this wine up." And it was the Kirkland one. And I was like, gosh, I don't know if that's going to be good or not. And I tried it. I'm like, wait, this is actually really good. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, they have some really great ones from a lot of really cool regions. Like if you like Italian wine, they have a great Barolo that's well under $20, which is pretty unheard of for that region. So it's like anytime I'm like, this is great, works for me.
Yeah,
No
I
shame.
love it. So what's your complaint wine of the week?
So we're in the middle of we just kicked off 4 month sleep regression with our
Boy.
youngest. So yeah, it's been a tough week overall. It definitely feels like we're well past Wednesday at this point.
Yeah. How about your win of the week?
Win of the week. That's a good one. I've been so tired. I'm so tired. It's like my brain is fogging. It's spring has really kicked off here in North
Okay.
Carolina. It was like 75 degrees today.
Ugh,
We was able
jealous.
to be at the park for like 2 hours after preschool ended. It was lovely. So that is a huge win that we're
I am a
leaving
little
whatever we
north
had.
of you. So we are still in the rain, cold, and like snow is still melting. But it did get to like 48 degrees today. And I was like, I don't even need a jacket. you know?
I'm originally from Boston, so I remember those days where you're like
Yeah.
above freezing. That this is lovely.
Awesome. What part of North Carolina are you from?
We're in Charlotte now. My wife's
Okay.
from the Charlotte area originally,
Nice.
so we moved down right before we had our first.
Awesome. I was going to say my cousin is in Wilmington and they have a restaurant there. I was going to suggest it if you were there.
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So, okay. So I always like to ask my guests, what is one significant challenge you've successfully navigated shaping your journey to where you are today?
Yeah. So our second, when he was born with something called esophageal atresia, which means his esophagus wasn't fully formed. It just kind of ended. And we had no idea going into the birth. He came about 3 weeks early and we were completely unprepared, kind of realized very quickly that something wasn't right. The doctor kind of stopped paying attention to us, started paying attention to him, started paying attention to the nurses. The NICU team came in and took him. We found out they gave a diagnosis that night. He had surgery shortly after that. And then we spent a really tough 2 weeks, 2 months in the NICU here in Charlotte. Came home. That went very poorly. We came home with like oxygen and all that stuff. It didn't go well. A couple trips back to the hospital, and then we ended up going all the way up to back to Boston Children's Hospital for surgery up there. And then spent another 2 months up there. And so that was a really tough journey in the first place. And it was also kind of right in hand when Stork Exchange was really starting to get going, and we'd been growing really pretty rapidly, and we ended up just kind of like shutting the business down
Wow.
for a couple of months. It was still mostly my wife and me running it, and there just wasn't anyone to do anything. And so we, basically had to start over kind of as we got past this. But we did it. I mean, Baker is a perfectly healthy, thriving 3.5-year-old. You would have absolutely no idea that he ever went through any of this. And Stork Exchange has grown well past anything we could have hoped for back in 2022. We just had our third, and we got to have a more typical um,
Experience.
birth and newborn experience, which is really nice. I mean, it's kind of going through it. You're like, oh, like I miss this phase of like newborn snuggles, and I miss like
Hmm.
these kind of milestones because the last experience was just so different
Was
from
very
where we are this
different.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm so glad. So, the running wine mom, we talk a little fitness. What is your favorite way to stay active?
Yeah. So before our newest was just born, I was a regular at Orange Theory Fitness. I started doing it a couple of years ago, back actually before we moved to North Carolina. I've kind of stayed with it since then. I've always been a runner, and I really like kind of the blend of running and weightlifting at Orange Theory.
Hmm.
Kind of forced into that nice tight 50-minute block, and having an actual scheduled class made me actually show up. And then recently, I've just started up a dad's run club with a couple other dads at our preschool. We get together at like 5 a.m. and run before the kids wake up, have coffee.
So fun.
And so we do that right now, and slowly kind of getting back into the running and fitness as life returns to normal after the newborn phase.
That's great. Oh my gosh, a preschool dad run club. I love that. That's so fun. Well, how does maintaining your fitness routine um, kind of contribute to your understanding of the relationship of mental health and physical health?
Yeah, I mean, I think fitness to me is like such a huge outlet for kind of pouring some of like anxiety and stress into, and there's plenty of that between parenting 3 kids under 5 and running a business. And it's just a time where I can kind of like occupy my body. I can kind of running, I can kind of just enter a zone where my body's busy. I can kind of think through a problem really well. And so yeah, I find it, if I can tell if I haven't like been active enough for
Right.
a while, and then I'm like I need to go do something.
I get the same way. I'm like, when I feel all of a sudden I'll start feeling a certain way and I'm like, why am I so anxious or like, on edge? And then I'm like, when was the last time I actually worked out? Okay,
Yeah.
it's been more than 48 hours. I need to I need to go run or something. Sweat out. So can you tell us about your family?
Yeah. So we're family of 5 now, as I've kind of been alluding to. My wife Sindel and I just welcomed our third child, Lincoln, to the family. I'm in October. So he just turned 4 months. Our oldest, our daughter Elliot, was born in 2021, 2 months before we launched Stork Exchange, actually. And then we have our middle child, our newly middle child. I think sometimes he wishes he was still the baby. He's
Oh,
slowly coming to terms with it. Came, about 17 months after Elliot did. So we live in Charlotte, as I said, and that's where my wife's from. We have a lot of family on her side here. And then we also have 2 dogs and a cat because, why
why
not?
not?
And, as everyone we literally pass by on the street when we go for walks say, we have our hands full. Um,
I know. How do you find that phrase annoying or just a way of conversation?
I think at one point it was like kind of annoying because you're like, yeah, yes, I do. And now it's just
Yeah,
like
can you
kind of a
give me
bit.
another
My wife
hand,
and I are just
please?
like, yeah, at this point, it's like we just look at each other and it's like we're like, okay, they're gonna say you have your hands full, and they do, and then you're like,
I know, like, I feel like it's meant to be a term of endearment or, like, it's almost like, "Oh, how's the weather?" when you're just, like, talking to someone and they don't know what to say and, like, "Wow, these people have a lot of kids." But then you're like, "Yeah, I do have all of these things, and we get it."
yeah.
What do What do you think you were least prepared for in parenthood?
I mean, I think it really how all encompassing it is. I think, people always ask kind of like, what's it like having a third? And honestly, I don't think it's that much different from having two, but like the change from going to 0 to 1 is just, I mean, it
Mhm.
changes your life, right? It's all of a
Yeah.
sudden you have this, little person that you're accountable for.
Mhm.
And so I think that is, and you're never really off, right? Like your kids, they
Right.
always want to play. They always need something. They always want to talk to you. And it's like, and it's awesome and it's fun, but it's like, oh, wow, like I'm in it for 24/7.
Yeah, I remember 0 to 1 was hit slapped in the face, like, it was just so difficult for me. Could not even, like, believe that people had more than 1 kid, but and then people were like, "No, 2 is so much worse." I'm like, "It cannot be worse from going from 0 children to 1." And I did, I found 1 to 2 was, like, pretty easy because 'cause you're already used to not sleeping, you're used to being responsible for another human being, I just yeah, so it's interesting to talk like, some people do think 0 to 1 was easy and 1 to 2 was really hard, but I agree with you.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, I don't know, you go through a period where you kind of like more, I don't know. I think when you
Mhm,
go to one, you still kind of like try to cling to
mhm,
your old self and like the person you were before you had kids. And you're like, oh, well, I'll still be able to do stuff. And you do. And it's important to make time to keep up with hobbies, but your relationship with everything changes. And,
right.
I think that is a tough transition. And, I think you can
Yeah,
go through, I think I went through a bit of a mourning period of like, oh, this is the person I was before. And this is
yeah,
my life now. And I love my kids and I'm super grateful that we had them, but it's definitely a change. And,
yeah.
that's a big, big change to go through.
No, I totally and then you don't have to go through that whole process of figuring yourself out too when you have your second one. You're like, "I already am this person."
I'm dad now. That is my
Yeah.
identity.
Well,
Yeah.
what is your parenting style as dad?
I would say, I don't know, like strict, gentle parenting.
Mhm.
I think, we have very firm boundaries and expectations in our house. But at the same time, we try really hard to be very open and communicative with them and with our kids. We try and talk about feelings, we try and validate their feelings, kind of try and understand where they're coming from and how how they're understanding the world as a little, 3-year-old that's never been through it ever before. So, we really want to make sure they develop good emotional intelligence and the ability to talk through their emotions, but also want to make it clear to them that their feelings aren't the only ones that are valid in the entire world, right? Like the world is
So
full of people with
important.
feelings.
That is something that is very important for all parents to teach their kids, that it's not just about them. There's so many other things and people and, I agree with that. So what's one piece of advice that you would give to other parents?
Say stress less, enjoy more. I mean, I think it's pretty cliche, but time does go really fast. I think the other night I was giving a bath to our newborn and Elliot came into the room and was like, "Oh, can I help you?" And I was like, "Yeah, but like I remember when I was giving you a bath like not that long ago." And it's like
Yeah.
wild to me that now you're like, "Oh, I want to help you." And she was funny. She was like telling me, she was like, "Okay, Dad, like this is how Mom does it. Like you put the cloth on his
Oh,
belly." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, like you teach me." And it was really cute, but it's like I can't believe that, we went from when her being in the tub to now teaching
I
me how
know.
to give a bath. And it does go fast. And so I think enjoying every stage, and they're all so different to the fullest,
So
and just
different.
don't not worrying about the fact your house is messy or your to-do list is never ending, or like, these people on Instagram have this perfect life. And it's like, you know what? Be where you are, be happy with where you are, and just kind of soak it all in as much as you can. And it's a great experience. It's an incredible ride. So
Great advice. All right, well, let's get into it. Can you tell us about the Stork Exchange? What made you think of this idea and how did you get it started up?
yeah, so the idea for Stork Exchange, it came when we were kind of getting ready to have our first, and we visited my brother and sister-in-law, and who just had our nephew. And I was just like staggered by the amount of stuff that they had for this little
Mhm.
China kid. And they lived in a townhome in DC. So it was like, the baby stuff had overtaken the place. And I realized like, oh, that's gonna be us, right? And it was like, oh my God. And so I really kind of went down the secondhand rabbit hole and talked to other parents about it. And it just felt like had to be a better way than kind of doing the Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, exercise, which there are incredible ways to get stuff and you can find some incredible deals there. But it's just like becomes so much friction of messaging people, hoping they respond, hoping you can arrange a time to meet up, hoping they actually show up and that, it's actually what was in the picture and not like super gross. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And we actually started the program as a way for parent to help parents buy and sell used gear in a more reliable and easier way. And we kind of transitioned away from that and towards the returns industry as we became more aware of what a problem returns were for brands and how, they had all these returns coming in, particularly as e-commerce took off and returns grew. And they were just kind of sitting there going to the landfill. And it was like, oh, wow, there's this huge stockpile of great, perfectly good gear that's just being unused. Um, you know, it would be great if we could get this to, connect this gear with parents. Um, so that's kind of we made that transition about 2 years ago, and we started partnering with brands and retailers. And that's kind of been our main focus since then.
So, what actually does happen when someone returns a stroller or a bassinet or car seat to a major brand?
Yeah. So for a lot of smaller manufacturers, they'll still inspect that return, see if it's unopened or unused. And if it is, they'll restock it and sell it as new. And a lot of times, and the ones that don't, they kind of they'll scrap them for parts or they'll sell them off in warehouse sales to locally. But at that stage, for a lot of brands when they're selling on their websites, their return rates are really small. And then as they grow, they start selling through major retail channels like Amazon or Target, where typically they see return volumes go from like low single digits to like 20% of sales. And it's a huge change. And they get to do this huge amount of volume because they have access to so many more people through these channels, Target, Amazon. It's, as you know, probably from shopping at either one, it's super easy to return anything
I just
to,
made a return today
yeah,
for
exactly.
out.
Right. I think Target's like registry return window is a year, right? A
Hmm.
literal year. And so people take advantage of that and they kind of return everything. And, these companies end up with all these returns and the sheer pace of that just becomes too much for them to keep up with. And
Hmm.
so, a lot of times they'll be outsourcing who's running their warehouse and returns just become a problem that's kind of too big to tackle and they get shoved aside and they're ultimately either they end up at a landfill. I think it's roughly, at least 25% of returns end up in the landfill. And that's, I think, much higher even in baby where there's a lot more concerns about safety. Or they end up kind of in this like gray market where they're liquidated and sold off and, you know, anyone can kind of buy and sell these products and there's no real like checking or standards or anything
Hmm.
like that. Someone can buy it and sell it out of a storage unit and you don't really know how much diligence has gone into whether that product's still safe to use or not.
Wow. So you came from supply chain optimization, which sounds very corporate and adult, and now you're working with high chairs and car seats. So, what did corporate America teach you about waste that maybe most parents never see or think
Yeah,
about?
I mean, I think that was always really eye opening to me, right? Is what waste at like scale looked like.
Hmm.
I think when, balance sheets get big enough for companies, like they have line items that are kind of just footnotes for them that would make your eyes water. And it's just to them, they're just like, oh, it's the cost of doing business. And so we would go in and we would kind of talk to teams and be like, okay, what are you buying? Who are you buying it from? Why are you buying it from them? And for a lot of companies, it was like, oh, I don't know. And that isn't it's not true for like, the big stuff that they're buying, kind of their main focus, but any company has this huge long tail of just stuff they have to buy,
Hmm.
kind of parts they don't use that often, and or like even just like office supplies or warehouse supplies and all that stuff. And that long tail never really gets looked at. And all of a sudden you realize it's just like there's a lot of really wasteful spending in there that just is like someone did it once and it became the de facto way of doing it. And, they might not even really be using it still, but they're still buying it. And someone gets the box and they're like, yeah, I don't know, puts it off in a corner. And then you have 30 boxes of it. And like,
Yeah. That's crazy. And you guys have diverted like 58,000 pounds or something like that number of gear from landfills. When you see or hear that number, what does that mean to you personally?
I mean, I think to me, it's really a testament to like how far we've come.
Hmm.
when we started back in 2021, we started with 40 baby carriers that we had bought up off Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace here in Charlotte. I think I'd cornered the market on baby carriers, used baby
Mhm.
carriers here. And we decided to just list them online and see if like, okay, like we had this idea, like, let's see if we could get people to buy them from us. We're working out of this little tiny, basically utility closet in a church basement down the street from us. It was freezing cold. It had no heat. And, that's where we kind of started out of. And now we're talking about, tens of thousands of pounds of gear that we're, taking in from retailers and brands and turning around, inspecting, cleaning, and selling off to parents and, making good. So it's kind of like mind blowing to me that, we've gone from that little baby utility closet
Mhm.
to this massive warehouse that we're working out of.
That's really neat and such a great just doing good for the world. Like, they say, what is the starfish when someone's picking up the starfish off the beach and the guy says, there's a ton of starfish and they're like, why are you even bothering? And he's like, this it matters to this starfish. And that's
Yeah.
kind of I was, that's you're doing such a good thing for the world, which is really great. So, but to kind of go along that line, parents are drowning and stuff. I mean, I myself am looking behind the computer of all the stuff I have for my kids. But if you had to give maybe one gear sanity rule for every new parent to follow, what would it be?
Don't shop after 9 p.m.
Uh,
I think we've all fallen guilty to kind of,
mhm.
to that late night shopping binge. And I know it's true because I can see when orders come in for our website, but
Yeah.
you're up feeding the baby or, it's a sleepless night or you're kind of, you convince yourself that this one product you see on Instagram or someone told you about is going to fix everything for you. It's going to make tomorrow great. And so you buy it. Maybe sometimes it works, but a lot of times it's just another piece of gear. And there's a reason you didn't buy it in the first place.
Mm,
And so I think like, stop, wait till the clear light of day comes. Hopefully, maybe after you've actually gotten some sleep
yeah.
and, then actually try and decide to buy it. I mean that rule applies in life. I think someone gave me great advice that was like, anytime you want to buy something, put it in your Amazon cart and wait 24 hours.
So
And,
smart.
if it's still in your cart, if you still want to buy it after that, like go ahead. But a lot of times you're like, I don't really want to spend that much money on that day anymore.
And as you're saying that, I am remembering with my kids, like getting up in the middle of the night, and that's all you're doing is scrolling. And I forget which brand or that it was, but it is a pretty smart marketing tactic. But they would have random, like 40% off sales for like the 3 a.m. feeders or something like that. And you would just, and of course, you're like gonna buy it at that time when you see
Mm-hmm.
it because you're like, oh, this is never on sale. And I'm like, it's a great idea, but also you are preying on the tired and bored moms and dads that are,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think most parenting companies are run by parent or baby product companies are run by
right.
parents, and they know
They
or
know.
we know. I mean, we know like right like, hey, I know I've been through it. Like I know when you're vulnerable and you're gonna buy. So
So we kind of talked about how your gear is inspected and graded, but what does that actually mean? Kind of walk us through what happens when a product comes in, just for people who are listening to hear about.
yeah. So when a return comes in through our warehouse, and we've kind of checked through that it's what we're supposed to get, and we fed all the information back to the partners so they can kind of handle things on their end. He'll go to our inspection team, who unboxes every single returned item that comes through our warehouse so they can do a full and complete inspection. We have a detailed inspection checklist for every product, and it's kind of customized to the product type, brand. And so that our team is kind of guided through that process by a tech interface. And so that they know exactly what they're looking for and to check. And so everything gets tested for functionality, everything gets tested for safety, particularly features like brakes or safety harnesses, make sure that all the parts are included, including accessories. We don't sell any products that don't have everything that's supposed to come in the box. And then each product gets graded on cosmetic condition. Things, sometimes do get banged around and gets shipped from factory to a warehouse to a parent to back to us. And sometimes things get a little jumbled. So we always kind of try and make sure that we're clear about what it's going to look like.
Hmm.
And then once it's been fully inspected, they'll kind of wipe down and package it back up, as close to factory spec as possible.
That's great. And for those also who are listening, is there a difference between what is the difference, I guess, between open box, overstock, return items, and does that matter? Does that matter for you guys? Does it matter to the buyers? There's a lot of, different.
Yeah. So overstock items are like items that are completely new, right? And
Mhm.
buying these items is exactly the same as buying this product from directly from the manufacturer or going to Target and buying it. Typically, it's just when manufacturer has decided to phase out a color or maybe an older model of a product. Say when Apple Baby switched from the Vista V2 to the Vista V3,
Mhm.
they're kind of gonna try and run down their remaining stock. And so they might work with a company like us, and you can buy that product at a reduced price to what kind of traditional retail prices. And so that's a great way to get product that might be slightly out of date or kind of more out there color maybe, but you get perfectly brand new product, often at a really great deal. And then for returns, which are kind of the other main source of product that we sell, these are all we grade all of these products. We have to actually go in and grade those, right? Overstock products, those are brand new. They're sealed,
Okay.
straight from the factory. There's nothing, we don't have to check anything. And returns, we actually go through and we actually, we fully inspect every one of those products. And then, as I said, we grade them on the cosmetic condition they come in. Sometimes, you have some that are kind of pristine in open box. Maybe someone cut open the tape. Sometimes they haven't even opened the box. There's just a shipping label stuck on it.
Mhm.
Maybe they got to at their registry. Maybe they decided, they opened it and they looked and that green isn't quite the same green it looked like online. Whatever it is. But they, and then others, times you have time people fully take it out. They take for a test drive around the house. They're like, yeah, this isn't for me. They box it back up. And, once you kind of unbox something, I think we've all done it, right? We're like, how did they get this into a box, right? So then it gets put back in the box not totally perfectly, and sometimes that's where you can kind of have some of that rubbing and scuffing that can happen in transit. So we grade everything on condition. As I said, everything's going to come. It's fully functional, it's fully tested for safety. Everything is going to be included. If you're like really excited about the cup holder is going to be there. I know that's important.
Right. It
And
is.
so, I've been taking the stroller to enough early morning walks. So I'm like, yeah, if there's not a place to put my coffee, it's going to be a problem. So, so functionally, there's no difference, functionality wise, safety wise, there's no difference from an overstock product. There just might be some cosmetic, maybe a little scuff
Differences.
on the frame or a scratch. And we just want to make sure parents are fully clear about what it is they're getting. There's no mystery. The conditions are explained very clearly on our website. So.
Yeah. And you're partnering directly with brands. Why do you think that is so important?
Yeah, I think it's really important because, we think, when we work directly with a brand, we get full access to the people who made that product, right?
Right.
We can talk to the engineers who designed the product and we can run when we say, okay, this is how we're going to inspect your product, like they can offer feedback. And we've had companies come back and say, oh, hey, you want to make sure you look at this or you test this. And so we can, make sure that what we're doing fully ensures that that product is 100% functional, 100% safe
Mhm.
to use. And we get trained on that product by people who kind of live and breathe it every day. And so everything is as accurate as possible. Everything is as thorough as possible. And so we're just able to create a better, safer experience for our consumers. And for the brands, it means that we're able to take those products that kind of were a problem for them and we turn those into assets that they can use to bring their full, complete, normal brand experience to new customers who might not shop them otherwise, right? A product that might be priced out of their range is now available. And so they get to reach new customers. And so I think that's really, a great win for
Yeah,
them as
it's
well.
important. And recommerce is really becoming a lifeline for families trying to save money. Why do you think that shift is happening now?
Yeah. So I mean, I think parenting's always been expensive, right? I think
So
it was
expensive.
before I can, the idea of a storage exchange came before COVID ever hit. And, it was clear then that parenthood was ridiculously expensive. And that has only gotten tougher. I think inflation's been, everyone's felt it over the last couple of years. I think it's really been, I think, some of the worst in industries that parents are
Mhm.
particularly exposed to, right? Groceries, healthcare, childcare, those have all skyrocketed in
Mhm.
recent years. And that's, there's no avoiding it when you're a parent, right? And so I think, parents are kind of right. Once you take care of all that, you still have to buy all the other stuff that
Yeah.
kids need, right? um, and even those things have gone up a lot. I think last year, right? You saw companies raising the prices of strollers 50% overnight when
So
tariffs
much.
hit.
Yeah.
And so, I think parents are like, I got to save money any way I can. And, this is a great way to do it.
Yeah. And it's I mean, for me, a thrill of finding a high-end baby product that is in great shape for, you know, 3/4 of the price or whatever. I'm like, this is a win all around. Like, there's nothing that could be
Yeah.
better than that. But which kind of does give me to the next question. Do you see the stigma fading around buying secondhand, especially from premium brands? Not from me, but from
Yeah.
other people.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, on the parenting side of things, like I think we all kind of, view secondhand as perfectly legitimate. I mean, I think I know people who like view it as a market pride, how much secondhand stuff they're able to get, particularly like clothing and stuff.
Mhm.
And I think, our generation and the generations younger than us have grown up thrifting. They've grown
I
up
love
with,
thrifting.
online platforms like eBay and
Mhm.
Depop. And, they, as you just described, right? Like we all know you can find great stuff online or I
Yeah.
mean, great stuff secondhand, online and secondhand. And, there's no reason not to take that same approach to shopping for your kids. And
Yeah.
there's a huge thrill, just as you said, like, right? There's a huge
Oh, it's
thrill in
such a
like
thrill.
when you scored a deal. And I think brands, right? Like I think you're seeing it across industries. I think you're seeing fashion companies realize like, hey, look, like, this exists. People are going to shop secondhand. Like, why don't I get involved? And I think
Mhm.
that fashion's always on the leading edge of everything, and everything else kind of follows along slowly. But I think even in places like the baby space, brands are cluing into this, right? Like their products are being sold secondhand, and they might as well be part of that, right? They might as well make
Mhm.
money off of it, and they might as well get involved so that they can control a little more of how their products are sold. They can make sure that products are safe. They can make sure that the products are being presented the way they envision it. And so
Mhm.
for them, it's like it's silly to miss out on this kind
Yeah.
of shift towards the secondhand market.
I agree. I know. I love to thrift. Like I go like at least once a week. This sweatshirt that I wear pretty much on all of my interviews just so that I'm like consistent with it is it's like Lily Pulitzer, which is like normally
Yeah.
it's like a 75 to $100 sweatshirt. I think I got it for like $5 thrifting, and it's like I mean it's great shape, it's comfortable, and I'm like
Yeah.
I love it, and it's something that I forgot I thrifted it until we were just talking about it. Like I
Right.
would
And
have just the same quality.
yeah, it looks great, and like you're stoked to wear it, and it's like it's
Yeah.
a super huge fun. And I mean, I think to me, it's a great way too to try things that maybe you wouldn't try otherwise,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah.
like I've never used a product from this company. Like I'm not gonna pay. Like, do I really want to pay $700 for a stroller? And then it's like, well, I can get it cheaper and I can try it. And then you're like, oh, I like this. And then you buy other
Yeah.
products from that company because
You
they're
know their
good or how
quality.
they fit, right? Like I buy clothing from the same like 4 companies most of the time
Mhm.
nowadays because I'm like, I know they fit
You
for me and
yeah.
I don't I'm not gonna worry about it. But like if shopping secondhand or thrifting, I'm like I'll take a risk on that because like worst case I spent $5 and it doesn't fit and like
And yeah, you just
whatever.
donate it back.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're solving both a financial and environmental problem at the same time. Which one drives you more?
Yeah, so I mean, I get a thrill every time, parent writes to us and tells us they were able to get, their dream stroller because we kind of put it within reach of them. And I think that's
Mhm.
so exciting. That's a huge win
So exciting.
for me. And but I think selfishly, the environmental mission is ultimately what really drives me.
Mhm.
It's kind of what brought me here in the first place. I think, you know, the earth is the greatest legacy we're going to leave our kids, right? Like when
Right.
we're gone and this is the planet they're going to live on. And I want to leave the best planet behind for my kids possible, right? Like I
Yeah.
want them to have a great life living here and I want their kids to have a great life living here and I want them to be able to go to places and see natural beauty. And it means a lot knowing that I'm helping reduce waste and keeping places looking better and reducing consumption of new products and all the materials that go into that. But also, I think hopefully part of a broader movement that's kind of shifting the way we think about consuming stuff. And it's a little less of, oh, hey, let's just buy lots and buy new and throw it
Yeah.
away. And instead think, hey, let's think carefully about what we're buying and make sure that everything gets used.
Yeah. And that really like to go not to go back to the thrifting, but it's the easiest thing for me to compare it to. Not that it's thrifting what you guys are doing, but I always feel like you're giving the environment like a better chance of again not being in a landfill. And as a consumer, I feel better about buying that stuff rather than like I mean, I would never order just off of Shein because it's like I know that's fast fashion and it's going to go into a landfill somewhere. And I think as a consumer, it's really important to think about it that way when they're buying from you that you've saved this stuff and you're buying saved stuff at a cheaper price, which is great.
Yeah. And hopefully it means you're buying stuff too that's like better built and it's going to
And
last
better.
longer,
Yeah,
right?
for
Like
sure.
the alternative is to shopping with us or another site like us or shopping secondhand is, you can go on Amazon and you can find all sorts of cheap kind of,
Mm,
baby products. And realistically, like most of
they're
them
not
probably questionable quality. And,
right.
who
I
knows how
agree.
long they're going to last for you. And, right. Or you can go out and it sounds insane, but you can go buy the Soki trip trap. It is really expensive, but it's a really nice
It
high chair that's going to last multiple kids. And on it,
right.
you can transition it to like a regular chair that they can use as they grow older. And like, you're probably going to get 10 plus years out of that
Yeah.
versus 10 months.
That's definitely one I would have bought off your website if I knew if you had it when I had my first kid because that was something that I wasn't willing to like spend all the money on because I was like, "Ugh, I just can't justify it, but I could have justified it with you guys.
Yeah, that was one of the exact same ones for me that I was like, I
Yeah,
wanted, and I was like, I can't pay that much. And then
I know.
by the time the
So
first
you're
one
built
came through our website,
Yeah, I love that. So for those listening, check that one out because
yeah,
that's a
it's a good one.
you're building such a fast-growing company while raising 3 young kids. What systems have you put in place at home so your life doesn't implode?
You're assuming my life hasn't imploded, which is a big one.
Yeah.
So I think, Sindel and I, we have a family meeting every Sunday to kind of review the week ahead. What's happening? How can we support each other? What do we need from each other? Uh, and just kind of talk bigger planning things as well, like, oh, so who's going to what birthday? Do we need to get presents for
Mhm.
this kid's birthday or whatever? And it's eventually something that I think we want to bring our kids into as well, and kind of make it a larger family meeting of, hey, like, let's talk through things, it's a plan. And we have a bunch of shared calendars. Everyone in our
Mhm.
family has a calendar and a digital calendar that we can see in our phone. They're all color coded, so you know who's doing what. We have a one of those skylight kind of digital
Yeah.
calendars too that sits on our kitchen counter, so it's easy to see. The kids can see it. They don't have phones or other screens, but that's a way they can see the calendar, and we can kind of quickly see it whenever we're in the kitchen. So that's kind of like the high level way of looking. Personally, me, I still love paper, pen and paper.
I do too.
I write out my week every weekend in a paper planner, and then transition that to a daily to-do list every day. I just find it, I don't know, right? The act of writing it out, I think, kind of just helps it sink in better. Plus, it's just way more satisfying to cross stuff off.
Check it off.
Yeah, it's not the same as like clicking the little bubble. It's getting to
Yeah.
scratch it out is big.
I totally agree with that. You gotta, like, cross it or check it, you
Yeah.
know? So, what is one baby product you thought you needed and you did not?
So we got a secondhand snoo, and we bought a secondhand, still way too expensive,
Mhm.
and Elliot hated it. Like, it did not work for her at all. And I think we used it for like 3 months tops, and then we were like, this is a
Mhm.
waste. And then we never really got a chance to use it with Baker. But with our newest, we're just using a basic Halo
Mhm.
bassinet by our bedside, and it's totally
Yeah.
fine. He up until the last couple of nights, he slept great at
Yeah.
night.
Up until that regression.
Yeah, into the regression, he slept great, and so it's like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I
And
regret
so,
that one.
on the flip side, what's one product that you would absolutely buy again without hesitation?
So we have this baby Bjorn bouncer,
Oh, I love
and
that
it's
thing.
it's fantastic, right? Like, it's better than any swing that I've ever
Mhm.
tried. All of our kids love sitting in it. It's super portable, right? You can
So
bring it
good.
outside with you, bring it to different rooms. You're not tethered to like an electrical outlet or anything. So that is one I would swear by. I think it's probably my favorite piece of baby
Yeah.
tech
So
gear that I've ever had.
And so this is funny. So you guys are going to be at the Prego Expo on Saturday,
Yeah.
and I this will be my third year going to it. But 2 years ago, baby Bjorn was there. I think they were there last year too, but they had an adult sized one. And so of course I went and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like sitting in it and I'm like, this is why our kids love it so much. This is like one of the products that I actually did want to see what it felt like and then had the opportunity to. So that's pretty cool.
It's so comfortable. They had one. I was at ABC, the big kind of like industry expo,
Mhm.
and they had it there too, and it is so comfortable. I was like asking
It's
them,
so
I was like, "Do you sell these?" And like, "Would you sell this to me?" And they're like,
right.
"No, absolutely
Yeah.
not."
I think afterwards, because the video that I posted of it went like crazy viral. I think it had like 5 million views for it. And I actually like looked into it to be like, is this something that you could do for adults? But there was all of these like things surrounding it that, and I'm like, whatever. It was one of those ideas you have in your mind for a second, but it was so comfortable. I would fall
It would
asleep
be a
in one
hit.
too.
I think it would be a hit if they ever decided to sell that adult version.
You have given us so much information about the Stork Exchange. I know everyone listening has learned so much, but I have to ask for the last question. 5 years from now, what do you hope changes in the way families think about buying, keeping, and letting go of their baby gear?
Yeah, I think it's something that I think about a lot. I think, is I hope families kind of move more towards communal forms of living. I think raising kids is really hard, and just
Hmm.
doing it as, you know, two people is even harder. The people I know who don't live near family, I'm just in awe of how they do it. I think a lot of families, households used to be very multi-generational. Like
Hmm.
I spent every summer in a house with grandparents and aunts and uncles, that just lowered the load for everyone, right?
Hmm.
It's pretty easy to take cooking from cooking for four to cooking for 10. It's not, just add extra
Right.
pasta, right? And, um, you know, so I'd love to see, and I think we're starting to see people starting to build more similar communities like that but with non-related families. I know people who've kind of taken over an entire apartment building right in the city, right? Friends living on each floor, and or people kind of buying houses on the same street as people, and really intentionally seeking out, where they
Hmm.
live to make sure they're very, very close to people that they can build a community with. And I think when you do that and then you start having kids, it's easy to pool those resources of baby products, right? Something even like this new, which not a huge fan of, but you only use it for a couple months, right? And then it
Hmm.
can go to the next family, and then it can go to the next family. And instead of four families buying four snooze, you can have four families buy one and get to use it. And it just gets passed around and around and around. And like we have a very small version of that on our street. We share clothing. There's a couple families that are
Hmm.
we all our kids are kind of perfectly staggered, and there's like a tote bag that just goes between houses like every couple days, and it's just like, oh, like here's the newest batch
Yeah.
of shoes and here's the newest batch of clothing. And I think that is figuring out ways where people can pass these gear to each other, and build community around it, and take these products that are engineered like, a truly good stroller. It's meant to last 10 years,
Yeah.
and making sure it actually gets used for all 10 years, and but being passed between families so that it's available when they need it. I think that's what I'd love to see, that kind of change
I
continue to
would
take
love that.
place.
Yeah, that would be great. And I hope that that is the future for everyone. And I think that's going to be a great place to end it. So thank you for
Perfect.
coming on tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And so that's going to bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. And as someone who has absolutely paid full price for something that probably lasted about 6 weeks, I appreciate everything that you are doing. And for anyone listening, if you're in baby mode right now or you know someone who is, send them this episode because it might save them money, it'll save them stress. And honestly, it might change how they think about buying in the first place. So thank you, Ben, for creating the Stork Exchange for people to have something like that to go to.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
As always, thank you for spending time with us today on The Running Wine Mom. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. You can follow me on Instagram at the running wine mom _. And Ben, where can the listeners find you?
They can come check out Stork Exchange at www.storkexchange.co, or find us on Instagram at stork_.
Perfect. And I will link all of that. So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of parenthood. Cheers, and I will be back next Tuesday.